So it's that time of the day again. Hello there, good afternoon, and welcome to The Pulse. We are coming to you live from our studios here in Accra on your digital terrestrial TV. We are free to air as well. You can catch us on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. This is JoyNews, independent, fearless, and credible. This afternoon on The Pulse, the minority in Parliament is questioning government's e-levy implementation plan as they allege new systems acquired to aid the collection process lacks the capacity to identify those to be exempt from the taxation. We'll scrutinize their claims here on The Pulse. We're also keeping our eyes on this. Calls of people stranded at the Registrar General's Department and other government agencies as strike by the Civil and Local Government Staff Association takes off across the country. We're live at the ministries in Accra and Kumasi where the offices remain shut. And later in the bulletin as well, a child's wish and his joy when it happened. We'll tell you why 8-year-old Ghanaian musician Photocopy cried after he earned a collaboration with South African music legends and hit makers in South Africa, corner hit makers, Uhuru. We'll tell you all about that. By Global Communities Dignilu, affordable, safe sanitation. This afternoon, we are streaming live on all of our social media platforms. It's at JoyNews on TV and also on YouTube as well. Tweet at us with the hashtag The Pulse. My personal handle is at Blessed Sogah. Thanks for choosing us. Please stay for details. Well, so let's start this bulletin from the Labour Front as calls of people seeking government services have been left stranded at the civil and local government staff withdrew their services, I beg your pardon, across the country. Now, key amongst their concerns is government's failure to pay their neutrality allowance. Now, CLOSAC, in a memo to its members, said it's actually reactivating its January strike, which it suspended to make way for negotiations with governments in the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi as well. Government institutions are empty as we're learning. Love FM's Emmanuel Bright Kweku has the rest of the story.
AC travelled from home to make enquiries at the Social Welfare Department, only to be told the office has been closed due to the industrial action.
It's a bit dicey, so we need to stop whatever we are doing and just go back to where we're coming from. If you basically have to travel from a very far distance to make an inquiry and you get here and you can't be attended to, you've wasted whatever money you had on you.
Members of CLOSAC are clamoring for their 20% neutrality allowance. The allowance is to compensate members to abstain from active politics.
So as you can see, the doors of some offices have been locked, and in an earlier engagement with the regional chairman for CLOSAC, Mr. Alexander Obi, he indicated that a task force will be deployed to ensure all members imbibe or comply with this directive.
CLOSAC embarked on strike about 2 months ago. The same day the strike was called off, there's on condition that our grievances will be fulfilled. So the government signed MOU with us, that the CLOSAC, and there was one provision in our condition of service known as neutrality allowance. That's the allowance the government decided to give to CLOSAC members for bearing us from active politics. So when we call out strike, we thought the government would pay it within February. February has passed, no show. April, no show. March, April, no show. So yesterday we had a meeting with the NEC, our highest decision body after Congress, and from what our executive was saying, government has no plans of paying the neutrality allowance any moment from now. So we had no other option to resume the strike. Yes, so that's why we call our members to reactivate the strike. So for now or today, all the CLOSAC members are to stay home, not going back to the workplaces. We are on strike.
For JoyNews, Emmanuel Bright Kweku reporting.
Well, here in Accra as well, Michael Papani Eshale interacted with some stranded customers at the Registrar General's Department.
At the end of this strike, are people innocent Ghanaians who are here to do business, but are disappointed, have had to be turned away, wasted their time after hearing that the people they are here to meet are on strike. I have a few people who are here who speak to me and tell us how this really affects some of them. Some of them are here to do business. I'll talk to some of them. So, Chief, good morning.
Good morning.
I mean, what were you here to do?
We're here to register a business, register some business, yes.
And when you went there, what were you told?
Actually, there's a man at the door, and he told us that, they are on strike now, so we should go back. I asked him when he started. He said yesterday evening. And so he told me that, we asked him when it's going to end, and he said it's till further notice. So,
as a business owner, how does this make you feel?
It's rather unfortunate and sad because we have to register a business, and then being turned away, it's bad. It's bad for us. Coming all the way from where we came from, then come here, it's bad for us. So.
Let me ask the lady here. Well, what were you here to do?
I also came to transact a business.
Okay. What business specifically? Marriage or business? Maybe to register your business?
I can't talk about that.
Okay, that's fine. But I mean, coming to meet this notice that we are not working, we're on strike, how does that make you feel?
It's so uncalled for. I don't know, but it's very bad. It's very bad. It's very bad. It's really bad. We were told, as he said, we were told that it started yesterday evening, and I don't know. They should come back. They should come back.
Do you feel more disappointed that you are not informed about the strike?
I am very disappointed. Very, very disappointed.
Mostly these strikes, they already give us, say, a head notice before, but just for you to waste your money and come here and then they've been told that they're on strike, you have nothing to do but just to go back. So we would have wished that they could have given us prior notice for us to know, so that we could have planned the day well.
Off the top of my head, if I recall, this should be about the second time we are having a strike. And for people who have to come here, this is going to be difficult for you. I mean, what do you think about strikes, especially from civil servants?
Okay, I don't know what is in, but I'm working at an auditing firm. So we have clients who are depending on us to finish the work and finish this statutory requirement. And if you come, there's strike. Because I've already sold my time, and then my client already has something, say, expecting results, and then I go back to him and tell him that, okay, this is what is happening. I realize that it slows down business. It slows down. So I don't know, but whatever it's happening, they should resolve it as quick as possible to help us stakeholders.
I believe you were here to register something or transact business.
Yes.
What were you told?
I was told they're on strike. They're not working. Wow. So I don't know what to say.
What were you coming to do here?
Actually, I was coming to file my returns and then to do a re-registration. Yes, and I'm coming all the way from Tamale.
So what are you going to do now? All the way from Tamale?
I don't know. I don't know when the strike is going to end. And so I have to go back.
Well, it seems the government cannot use the Ukraine and Russian war as an excuse not to meet their demands. At least this is what the Trades Union Congress feels. According to the TUC, challenges of unemployment and poor conditions of service existed before the war began. Here's the General Secretary of the Trades Union Congress, Dr. Yauban, detailing their concerns as they also threaten to withdraw if government fails to increase their minimum wage.
The job crisis, predates, Ukraine. The job crisis came before COVID. Therefore, we think that it is not right to blame COVID and Ukraine for every job crisis that we have in this country. That is not right. And we are not going to accept that. The Trade Union Congress, which is leading organized labor, is very cautious, and we always are biased towards dialogue. We hardly want to strike because strike is a very difficult thing to do. It's like war. So before we declare war on the employers, we have to make sure we have good reason. This time, we have the good reason to do it. Therefore, we caution that the employers must listen to us. And they should not just listen, they should also hear us, because the workers of this country are suffering too much, and we should not allow it to continue. Those who are in charge of this country must know that without workers, this country cannot progress. We have the National Tripartite Committee. the National Tripartite Committee has started the process towards determining the minimum wage for this year. For us, that is a do and die. We are going to make sure that minimum wage for workers for this year should not be below inflation. And this will be extended to public sector workers as well. So there's a battle ahead of us. And I can see organized labor is ready to fight. And we are going to do that.
Well, so we've been sampling your opinions about the CLOSAG strike and their demand for a neutrality allowance. So we asked the question, what should government do? Pay it, scrap it, or is it the case that you're indifferent about this? And many of you have been reacting to that. You see the outcome there. CLOSAG withdraws its services nationwide over government's failure to pay neutrality allowances. What should government do? And majority of you, 48%, say, well, government would have to pay. Those of you who are against it, 40.2%. And then many of you, quite a number of you actually, are indifferent about it, 11.8%. So that's the outcome of the poll that we put out there. And many of you as well have been trying to find out what government is doing about it on other portals of our social media handles. And then, but for now, this is for the online poll. CLOSAG withdraws its services nationwide over government's failure to pay neutrality allowances. So that's the outcome of the poll. Majority of you want government to do something about it and to make sure that they advance the payments. Well, so let's well, so the General Secretary of TABE is joining us now. Thank you, sir, for your time. First of all, let's understand the grand concerns that are happening, not just within CLOSAG, but also within organized labor as well. It appears that there are numerous challenges. You want government to address them immediately. What are some of the key issues and what are the concerns that you want government to move in and deal with?
Yeah, please, first of all, my name is Charles Kofiose. I'm the Deputy General Secretary for Teachers and Educational Workers.
Yes, yes, Charles, exactly why I'm asking about your concerns. Obviously, you were in that interaction today. What are the key concerns of your group?
Yeah, the main key concern that was discussed concerning our jobs, and as well as the jobs, our income that is associated with it, and the need to protect our jobs, and the economic situation in general.
Well, Charles, I'm trying to find out exactly how you want government to address this and how soon you want these concerns to be addressed.
It is an undeniable fact that the economic situation that we find ourselves is just unbearable, not for workers alone, but for the general Ghanaian public. And you and I know that the way prices of goods and services keep on increasing at an increasing rate. Today, you go to the open market to buy a particular item or services for that matter, and the price keeps changing. And our incomes are just also remaining very stable and eroding our disposable income, which is a difficult situation for staff, for workers in general. And that's what we want government to look at it. And government should show leadership in this regard, in making sure that this issue are really addressed by all. And we want to show government leading in this direction.
But just earlier on, you were talking about the economic conditions where we find ourselves. Are you mindful of that as well, the fact that that may restrict government's ability to immediately deal with your concerns?
No, come again, my brother.
Yes, are you mindful of that, of the situation where we find ourselves as a country, and the fact that government may be restricted in that regard?
You see, to be very honest, even as you speak to me, you and I know that the situation is just unbearable. It is high time that government will open up so that we'll sit at round table discussion and cross-fertilize ideas together. And this is what we want government to do. We don't want government to do A, B, C, D, and acting S, D, S, Y, Z.
All right.
That is exactly what we are saying.
Right. So we'll wait and see what then government will have to do about this. Charles Kofi, thank you for your time here on The Pulse. We're grateful. The Students' Representative Council, SRC, of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology has set aside some 50,000 Ghana cedis to assist needy students to pay their school fees to help them save them from deferring their courses. The move is an intervention by the SRC as part of measures to help save needy students who have had to defer their courses for non-payment of school fees. Over 6,000 students at KNUST have had to defer their courses in line with university regulations for non-payment of their fees. And that became a big controversy on campus. However, the SRC is now intervening and trying as much as possible to deal with the issue. Let's speak now to Valentine Eshon, Deputy PRO for the SRC there. Mr. Eshon, thank you so much for joining us. So why has the SRC decided to come through for these needy students? Well, it appears that we've lost Valentine Eshon, but there's a statement that the SRC has issued on this, indicating their resolve to deal with the matter. A number of reactions have been greeting the decision by the KNUST management as well on this, but there's more that's coming through from the SRC, and that's why we're re-establishing a line with Valentine Eshon to try as much as possible to understand what it is that the KNUST SRC is doing about this. Eshon, welcome to the program. I was asking about what necessitated this move by the KNUST SRC. Why did you decide to intervene?
So first of all, good afternoon to all your listeners, and pleasure to be on the show. Now, why the SRC has decided to put its house for students? We've come to realize that with the new key policy management, most of our membership, that the students of KNUST, about 6,000 of them, cannot afford to cross the 70% threshold that the new policy requires. And that is how come they have been deferred. And so in as much as the SRC has been able to negotiate with management so that these students, if they can afford to pay as soon as possible, they will be reinstated on the school system. We also understand that due to the economy we find ourselves in current, and then a lot of other factors, parents are overburdened and cannot pay. So we decided that we'll put across 50,000 to help students who have genuine financial concerns make that 70% threshold so that they can continue to have academic work done this semester.
In the meantime, are you engaging management of the school on the overall concerns that's happening on campus?
Yes. Since Tuesday, that is since when management resumed from the Easter break, engagements have been ongoing since. And even just this morning, we were in an engagement, and that's how come this morning the communicator has come out indicating that students who pay the fee to the 70% will be reinstated has come. Just came from engagement from just this morning.
There are reports, and yesterday I'm sure that you've seen that widely circulated. Some of your colleagues were reported to have used their fees for betting and some other activities. Have you received such notices as well? And that's why perhaps some feel there's no need even coming through for them.
Yes, the SRC is quite aware of such alleged information being out there. But as to the evidence or the statistics to speak to that information, we do not have that. And honestly, we cannot use one or two students who might find themselves in such a situation to generalize the whole of the 6,000 students. If you're on ground, you can tell that genuinely people have financial concerns. And so we cannot use those few, if for lack of better word, say bad enough to make a generalization of the whole total number.
All right then. I'm grateful, Valentine, for sharing some time with us here on The Pulse. Now, with just days to the rollout of government's project on the e-levy. We'll tell you more about that shortly, but we also have to stay on campus and talk about scientists at the Kwame University of Science and Technology who are also warning regular consumers of watermelon of adverse health effects from banned pesticides. The findings published in the journal Scientific Reports found unacceptable levels of the pesticides residues like DDT in some of the fruits on the markets in the Ashanti region. JoyNews is medical correspondent, Dr. Netta Pasram, has more in this report.
A group of pesticides known as organochlorines, which DDT and HCH form a part of, are banned for agricultural use. However, developing countries such as Ghana continue to use them.
Probably because of the organochlorine pesticides that have been banned and are still in use. And if you look at fruits, they are not the type of things that we cook before eating. We take them as, we consume them as we find them. The only thing probably that we do is to wash them. And these persistent organic pesticides, the organochlorine pesticides, have effect on human beings, harmful effects. They are poisonous, they have a tendency to cause cancer, and for which reason this particular project was something that was of necessity. And so we wanted not only to look at what happens in the market, because we know that people bring their wares from the farms to the market to sell. We're looking at what happens on the farm.
The scientists wanted to assess the levels of organochlorine residues in fruits and determine the potential risk associated with exposure to these pesticides. For the study, the researchers used 120 fruits from 5 communities in the Mampong municipality of the Ashanti region.
All these are communities where they are doing extensive farming into fruits and fruits mainly. And we looked at 3 of them, banana, pineapple, and watermelon, which is very much consumed. All these 3 are consumed by a lot of people on a daily basis. So we looked at the possible risk associated with these consumptions, and we realized that for most of these fruits, the risk of consumption was low for both infants and adults. But then for watermelon, the risk of consumption for adults was low, whereas that for infants was alarmingly high. I would say alarmingly high because the factor that we got was far greater than 1, which means that it is alarming. Also, when we looked at the carcinogenic risk, we also realized that the children are at a risk of having cancer by consuming watermelon because of the level of organochlorine pesticide that was found on it. We didn't see the same for the other 2 fruits that we looked at, which is pineapple and banana.
The scientists are therefore calling for regular monitoring of pesticide levels in fruits in order to protect consumer health. Reporting for JoyNews, Dr. Netta Pasram.
Now, Ramadan is seen as a spiritual time for reflection, improvement, and increased devotion and worship of God. During the period, adult Muslims do not eat or drink from dawn to dusk, even though children of the Muslim faith are expected to begin fasting once they have reached puberty, usually by the age of 14. Many of them are encouraged to do so even before they attain this age. In the following report, my colleague Anas Sabit has been interacting with some children below the fasting age on how they first embarked on this important religious journey.
Muslim children typically aren't expected to fast during Ramadan until they reach puberty. But most often, Kids will want to start earlier because they see everyone else abstaining from food and water from sunrise to sunset, followed by their community gathering to break their fast together, and they want to participate. Today, I set off to engage some of these kids on how they began observing the dawn to dusk religious obligation. 14-year-old Fatih Idris was 9 when she first attempted to fast.
When I started fasting, we were staying in Accra. When we went to school, I saw my friends fasting, so when I came home, I told my mom that I also wanted to fast. So in the morning, when I finished eating, I did my chores. Exactly 8, then my stomach started growling. Then I went to the kitchen and saw some jollof. But I controlled myself. But when it was 12, I couldn't control myself anymore, and I drank water.
Unlike Fatih Idris, who started at age 9, Abdulaziz Issa's first fasting experience was at age 13.
I myself wanted to fast because it was good. All my friends were doing it, and I was told that when you do, you receive blessing from Allah.
Like most of the kids I spoke with, 9-year-old Shurem is fasting for the first time this year. He attempted to do so a year ago, but failed to make it to sunset.
I was hungry. I was crying for help, and when I was in the room, I went to tell my stepmother that I'm hungry. She said I should wait until the time will go to 12. I waited and it came to 12, and I break the fast.
Kids can start by fasting for a few hours, by fasting from dawn to midday, by skipping lunch, or by fasting only on weekends. Hajia Hajara Kipo is a mother of 4. She shares with me how she nurtures her children into fasting.
For children and fasting, in fact, it is something interesting because I started with my children at the age of 5. And at the age of 5, the child will not fast fully, but the child will fast from morning to 12 o'clock. As at that age, then I'll ask the child to break the fast. And when you are doing this, you don't have to let the child go to school. You have to let the child do it at the weekends. They do it at the fast at weekends. So when the child is at home, you can monitor the child, the way the child is feeling. When you see the child being weak or lying down, he can't do anything, then maybe you have to let the child break the fast.
Hajara is, however, surprised at how her kids took to fasting to be overly exhausted, adding that Muslim children are not forced but trained gradually to do so.
It's not forced. We don't force the children, but we rather give them training. It's a training. Like I said, the children themselves, it will get to some time, when you ask them to fast today, tomorrow, don't fast, you have to rest. The child will say, no, mommy, I want to fast. Or daddy, allow me to fast. Me, I can fast today, evening time. Allow me to fast. So it's not force. We don't force them. We train them. And when you train your child, the child will like to fast with you.
To these children I've been engaging, what else do they know about Ramadan aside from abstaining from food and water?
I was 9 when I started fasting, and nobody forced me to fast. I saw that everyone was fasting and nothing happened to them, and I also wanted to fast so that I can get blessings from Allah. You pray the 5 daily prayers and you recite the Quran and help the needy people.
Though Muslims are only mandated to fast at puberty, getting children encouraged to fast early remain of significant importance to most Muslim homes. Reporting for JoyNews, Anas Sabit, Tichiman.
Now, the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, has called on government to review the environment tax because the reduction will have a positive effect on the pricing of their finished package and products. The chairman of the Greater Accra Regional Association of the Ghana Industries, Jonah Makpelo, made this appeal at the sidelines of a U.S.-Ghana alumni stakeholders dialogue on post-pandemic recovery, socio-economic prospects amidst the chaos.
Most of our manufacturers use plastic as raw materials in the manufacturing process. And so if you're taxing importation of plastics to be used as raw materials for production, this hurts industry significantly because you're eventually making the cost of the final product higher. At the same time, you're not taxing the person who is importing the finished product that plastic has been used to manufacture. So AGI is calling for a situation where the environmental tax should be looked at once again. We believe that most of the plastic products we import are used as raw materials in our production process. And given that already the entrepreneurial environment is quite harsh, the cost of doing business is very high, we can only ask government to consider to reduce this taxation in order to have less cost of production.
Economic Section Chief, U.S. Embassy Ghana, Stephanie Hutchison, outlined some interventions made by the U.S. government to Ghana to help develop the economy.
Here in Ghana, we're working in close partnership with the government of Ghana, the people of Ghana, across the board on a range of economic issues to support economic recovery and economic activity, and more broadly on a long-term scope, inclusive economic growth. And there are a number of resources that we have available and tools for businesses to explore, and you can find that on our website at the U.S. Embassy. The USAID supports the West Africa Trade and Investment Hub. That is a resource for businesses where they can connect with support services to help them identify potential financing, but also market research and tools to help navigate the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act so they can export duty-free to the United States. In addition, another resource is the Prosper Africa Initiative, which is recently relaunched and has a range of tools and brings together a whole of government, all of U.S. government resources together in one place.
Region have assured that the watermelon factory and the government's One District, One Factory policy initiative will be commissioned in the coming months. The operationalization of the factory was deferred from 2020 to March this year, following what authorities said was due to the procurement challenges there. But speaking to JoyNews, MC for Wale Wale, Arimyao Somolaki says the factory setup is now at its final stage of completion. According to him, the project's private partner has given all indications that the factory will begin serving its purpose before the end of the year. There's more in this report.
Construction of the Wale Wale watermelon factory in the West Mamprosi municipality of the Northeast region commenced in 2019 as part of the government effort to reduce rural-urban migration and revitalize the country's industrial base. The factory project is under the One District, One Factory initiative in partnership with Champion Foods and Beverages Limited, a wholly Ghanaian-owned beverage manufacturing, distribution and marketing company. It is being funded by the Exim Bank and scheduled for completion by the end of 2020. However, procurement challenges, according to authorities, caused the extension of the completion period to March this year. Speaking to JoyNews, the Chief Project Supervisor and MC for the area, Arimyao Somolaki, stated that all bottlenecks have been declared to give way for the factory to start operations in the coming months.
It was on 16 December 2019 that the sod was cut, and it was supposed to finish in the middle of 2021. You understand? But you know, when that happened, there were some challenges with regards to the support to that particular project, because documentation and other things delayed. It was not that the eczema do not have the money, but documentation and other things delayed. And that is why, if you look at it, it stopped for some time and later on it picked up. But the good news is that the project has been completed, machinery has been brought. It is now left with the operationalization.
The precise location of the project is at Logre along the Wale Tamale Road. Inside the facility, several types of equipment are littered around. We also observe new structures still being constructed. The MCE says although the project was delayed, it hasn't been abandoned, and that the people are grateful to the government for fulfilling most of its campaign promises made to them.
But we thank the government for thinking through and by giving us the watermelon factory. I must indicate the entire country, West Mampuru is the leading producers of watermelon in the entire country. It means that the government actually understands its people and what the people need. That is why they brought it. So even if it delays and start at any time, it's still a very good venture. But we wanted to commission this year.
The project is expected to create more than 300 direct employment and provide a ready market for between 2,000 and 3,000 peasant farmers. The completion of the project would also bring an end to the seasonal ritual of post-harvest losses, a phenomenon that has affected and continue to affect farmers and their communities.
But all things being equal, we expect that it should run before the end of the year.
From Wale Wale, Ilyas Sutanko, Joy News.
The Livelihood Empowerment Against Poverty Secretariat has blamed the delay in payment of allowances to beneficiaries to bureaucratic process to securing the grants. This week, actually, 344,708 beneficiaries are receiving double of their bi-monthly allowances under the 75th and 76th cycle of the grants. Now, the Livelihood Empowerment Against Poverty LEAP program has been fraught with consistent delays and thereby affecting the living conditions of beneficiaries. Head of LEAP Management Secretariat, Mr. Miles Sogah, has been telling us more.
We are having a and the Social Protection Director is championing that there have been some other studies from academia and people have been tasked to look at what dedicated funding can we have just so that for the LEAP program alone and other social protection interventions. But more importantly, the LEAP program that has come to stay and that has gained the commitment of all government. What can we do? Are we going to tax? Are we going to save 5% from our oil money? There are a lot of discussions, and people are looking to what other monies we can get from other places dedicated for the LEAP grants so that there will not be delays. As it stands now, the LEAP program has over the years expanded a little. Our hope is to meet about 350,000 households. And the last expansion, I must say that we relied on GNHR data for the Upper West and Upper East region to do the expansion. Currently, we are hoping to, we've gotten some data from them and we are trying to validate and make up to the 350,000. So we are validating within the communities to be sure that the data is authentic. Not it's authentic, but to be sure that, you know, over time, people can migrate. We got you 1 year ago, but you could move and all that. So we are validating it to make sure we hit the 350,000 households. Again, the LEAP program is interested in reassessing. And so to reassess, we want to leverage on the GNHR data. And so we are committed to piloting this reassessment in the 5 regions of the North, where GNHR has completed data collection. And that, probably the pilot, will learn lessons from them.
The Mayor of Tamale Metropolitan Assembly, Sule Salifu, has indicated that the resolve of the Assembly to strictly enforce bylaws to ward off traders plying their trade around the interchange after decongestion in the area will happen. The Tamale Metropolitan Assembly, before the commissioning of the interchange, embarked on a decongestion exercise and moved the traders to Kuko Market and other satellite areas in the city. But the traders returned to the street. Speaking after a stakeholder engagement at the Assembly, Mr. Sule Salifu said the Assembly's last resort will be the use of the law enforcement agencies to get the place sanitized. Martina Bugri has more in this report.
The Tamale Metropolitan Assembly, before the commissioning of the Tamale interchange, embarked on a decongestion exercise and moved the traders to the Kuko Market and other satellite markets in the city. But the traders have relocated back on the street. Speaking at a stakeholder engagement at the Assembly, Mr. Sule Salifu said the Assembly's last resort is to use the law enforcement agencies to get the place sanitized.
We think that engaging stakeholders in this enterprise is much more results-oriented than mission first. That the Assembly, the GPRT, the LTTT, the Road Safety Commission will not hesitate to use the law enforcement agencies to get the place sanitized. This could be a last resort that we should call for.
The Northern Regional Commander of the Motor Traffic and Transport Department, Chief Superintendent Mahmoud Yusuf, told the stakeholders trading on the street, placing injurious substances on the road which can cause accidents, were punishable by the law.
Causing danger to road users. How do you cause danger to road users? Like the first one, trading, placing injurious substances on the road. You cause danger to the road if you block any part of it. The roads are made for free flow of traffic, vehicle moving, no impeding. But if you place anything on the road, that is likely to cause accident, likely to cause injury to any other person. It is against the regulation. And with this one too, you can go to jail for up to 3 months, 1 month. You can equally be fined for a period for 30 days, for 50 penalty units or 25 penalty.
The Northern Regional Director of the Road Safety Commission, Mohammed Abdul Samed, bemoaned the culture of people running to opinion leaders and chiefs when they are found culpable of the law.
You go out there, you see billboards all over the place, obstructing the view of motorists, causing accidents left, right. And someone has to see to it that the right thing is done. But do we allow them to do their work? The laws are there. The slightest thing, you are running to a chief, you are running to a mala, you are running to a pastor. Pastor calls him, he respects them, he sees himself as their son. So it becomes very difficult. You try to explain, no, I just want it this way. We should not live like that. Let's be fair to ourselves. Let's live as people who want to have peace. You know, you cannot have peace if you have a loved one lying at the hospital because of road traffic.
The Asokori Mampo municipality in the Ashanti region has a number of communities recording perennial flooding with devastating impact of the flood waters, including loss of lives and property. As the rain setting, the local assembly says it is taking measures to contain the floods. Love FM say Manuel Bright Kweku visited some of the flood-prone communities to speak to residents and has filed this report.
It's that season of the year where many households are left stranded at the mercy of the rains. Many households living in swampy areas become worried when the rains begin. Farouk has been working as a tailor for a decade at Sawaba, a flood-prone community. His shop is located close to a trench.
So in case like 4 hours rain now.
The drains are smaller, so when it rains heavily, they overflow their banks and flood this area. Residents in this community ousted the former assembly member for failing to deal with the floods. Farouk, however, alleges the current officer has neither put in efforts to solve the menace.
In January, the NADMO officials visited the area, which I directed them to the houses of the victims. But nothing has happened afterwards.
Honorable Red, not
only have the floods destroyed people's properties, the roads constructed over this bridge at the Sawaba enclave is riddled with potholes. So where I am currently standing is the Pelele drain located here in the Asokore Mampong municipality. This enclave has for the past years been flagged as a flood-prone area, with some records of members of this community dying and others having lost their properties as a result of heavy downpours. Along the drain are makeshift structures belonging to squatters and some business owners. These squatters have had to erect their buildings on pedestals to escape the floods.
You can't use the route when it rains. That is why I have built my shop on pillars.
Last time
because of the floods, we've erected our homes on pedestals. Few meters away from the Pelele Trench sits a huge building and an abandoned mosque. Even though the mosque and the story building behind me have been marked for demolition, you still can see some building being erected by constructors over here. This could pose danger to...
And you're welcome back to the Pulse. Now, we all know that we're back from the Easter festivities. The National Road Safety Authority's vision of achieving an incident-free celebration did materialize. However, there were a few incidents that were recorded. The Accident Victim Support Ghana Foundation, championing an incident-free celebration, has noticed that there will be a need to scale up support for non-governmental agencies to support state agencies in that regard. Joining me now is Reverend Cyril Benedict Crab. He's with the Accident Victim Support Ghana. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
So, well, we're back from the Easter festivities, but you want government to go a step further, the Road Safety Authority to go a step further in supporting non-governmental organizations as well, so they can also champion road safety initiatives.
Exactly.
First off, let's start off from the point of Easter itself. What was your impression about the strategy adopted by the National Road Safety Authority and how they went about educating people on the need to ensure safety on our roads during the festivities?
Right. Thank you very much, and a quick good afternoon or good evening to your cherished viewers, and thank you for hosting me once again.
Right.
Indeed, the National Road Safety Authority did extremely well by implementing their feasibility on the roads together or in partnership with the police, DVLA, Ministry of Transport, and all other relevant stakeholders. And I think this time, because of the heavy presence of the stakeholders, I mean, police and then the National Road Safety, it has reduced compared to last year. The only thing we need to do, I believe that if the National Road Safety Authority is being supported to have more resource people on the road to check, because, you know, drivers during the Easter festivities, especially I was in Kumasi, and I trekked through that road, and whilst coming back on Monday, I saw a lot of accidents, which was as a result of reckless driving, drink driving, and probably, let me say, fatigue driving, because most of them returning from the trip, you know, on Monday, were tired. Some of them were still enjoying because they think it's a holiday, and some of them were a little bit, you know, intoxicated with alcohol and some other drugs that make them to feel dizzy on the road.
The Road Safety Authority at the time told us that they were targeting hot spots
Sure.
That's what they told us.
Yes.
Did that work?
Yes, it did. Because I think crashes were reduced this time around at Chichamante, Esoboy, Chichere, Suhum, and then the DSO going forward on that same stretch, I think Enyinem as well. These are spots on the road that usually we have accident. A place like Juaso, last year we had a policeman who went up and then was killed. We have other students who also died at that particular place, Juaso. This year we didn't have any accident at Juaso. So on the stretch, I would say that that place this year, road crashes were minimized, but there were a lot of indiscipline and then bad driver behavior on the road, because they know very well, they knew that there were police presence there. In fact, I was part of the police that were directing some of the traffic there so that there will be free flow of traffic. But there are, one or two incidents that, like I said, is as a result of their indiscipline or maybe not adhering to the road regulations that were put in place. But basically, if you ask me to evaluate the work of the National Road Safety as well as in partnership with the police and the stakeholders this year round on Kwewu, the accident was reduced.
There was this initiative that was rolled out, launched at the VIP terminal, which many feel, some expect even say, well, let's proceed with it. It's the driver spokesperson initiative, where the police service indicated that, well, we need to get a passenger on board all the time to report the driver if he's becoming indisciplined on the road. It appears that's just for the Easter. Do you feel that we should extend such initiatives going forward?
Road safety is a shared and collective responsibility, and you don't have to wait for you to be told, because we are all vulnerable on the road. We cannot stop completely road crashes. So then what we need to do is to get passengers who are the driver's driver to speak up, to be part of the preventative implementations, so that we will not have these accidents at all. There is no passenger. In fact, passengers have been part of this reckless driving or the accident that has been occurring, because most of the passengers think that, no, it is not their business. But you are in the bus or you are in a car. If the driver is driving reckless, mind you, your life is at risk. And so until you talk, you are going to die. And so passengers need to be empowered more. We are living in a country where passengers think that driver will insult them. We are all diplomatic when it comes to boarding somebody's car. But mind you that your life, matters in that particular car until you are out of that social contract. If not, you are going to die. And I don't think anybody signed a social contract to go and die at the end of the day. So it empowers, it borders on the passenger to be part of the safety advocacy in or outside the car. Pedestrians do need to be, empowered as well. You should know the reason why you are walking by the road. And the way the road has been demarcated, it has been done in such a way that pedestrians will have their safety as well. It's a place you need to walk, the pavement that you need to pass, the overpass, the bridges that are there. But you see pedestrians crossing the road at a very dangerous, point. And so the campaign that they did, apart from the social media number, the 194 that they put out there for people to record and also people to report any recklessness or indiscipline on our roads. Passenger empowerment is very, very crucial. Very, very crucial. And all passengers need to know that
And I like the terminology you use, the driver's driver.
Yes, the driver's driver. Because if my driver is sleeping and I'm also sleeping, both of us are at risk. We are going to be victims of road crash or die. So in fact, you shouldn't be sleeping whilst traveling. Yes, the passenger, you are allowed to sleep, in a while, a bit, but you always have to be awake, because the driver is a human being just as you and I, and he's culpable. He could sleep, he could sleep because he's human. He has other economic or family or marital problems that will make him to be worn out one way or the other. So on the road, you help the driver to drive, and you speak to the driver politely. Let me use that word, politely, to the driver, that maybe you are sleeping.
So it's often a challenge in commercial transport. You do agree the driver-passenger relationship, if we should.
You see, sometimes we are impatient. We promote what we call the quote. And the last T, the quote, the T is tolerance. tolerance for both sides. Okay. You know, you need to be very tolerant with the way the driver is driving and the way you approach in speaking to the driver. And the driver needs to also be very tolerant, very patient in accepting what you are saying, so that the two of us, or the two of you, the driver, the passenger, will have that cohesion in driving for you to arrive alive or stay alive. You understand? Because if the driver and the passenger do not understand each other, trust you me, and that's where curses come in. You know, and then the driver think that he has been cursed by a passenger, and so you can't drive with anger. And you have to make sure you become very, very tolerant with everybody on the bus so that you can make the journey safe.
Let's talk about the transport unions themselves too, and their responsibility in pushing that safety campaign. It appears that for them, it's just the profit motives and not necessarily the concerns about safety on the roads.
In fact, the National Road Safety Authority, I think the Compliance Department, they are about to publish a report on compliance and then inspection, which they have other things in place that they are coming to promote. Commercial drivers these days, or institutions, transport institutions like the Metro Mass and then STC and then VIP, they are the institutions they are looking at to promote what you are saying. Without that, they themselves cannot say that they are driving safe. And they have to promote safety on our roads, because trust you me, you and I are not on the road all the time. They are the one on the road all the time. And so safety must be a priority for them.
So you support the audit?
Yes.
So what? And the question has always been about the mode of the audit and how it should be done in such a way that you don't affect their business operations as well.
We need to regulate their business. And see, humanity is in between the two. Whether you are making profit or you're not making profit, we have lives at stake. And so we need to audit you to know if you are doing the right thing or not, to know where we are going and where we can now adjust the systems to move to the next level. So for me, I support it.
How smooth will that implementation be, for instance? For instance, if you look at the Greater Accra region, the trotro has been a major source of transportation for many. These vehicles have one defect or the other. So enforcing that will be a difficulty.
But we cannot continue to check or handle our safety.
Is it really feasible? And I guess that's the question. Feasibility, the concern about feasibility. That's the bigger concern.
We have to start from somewhere, or else we will be in trouble. You see, like you are saying, there are most cars on the roads that are not in good shape, and it's not good enough for people to even board those cars. We need to try in a way to get them off, you know. But I believe that whatever they are bringing, there will be a policy that is going to, you know, shield some parts for everybody to kind of fall in place with whatever they are bringing, you know.
Let's look at government policy as well. How do we refine it to help that drive safe agenda?
See, where we are today, even the UN supports road safety, you know, and so government, whether government like it or not, government will have to come in with policies that is going to promote safety on our roads. And whatever government tries to bring on board for safe driving or safety on our roads, we all need to support it. We all need to support it, and government must see it as a priority, because if road crashes is the third for the world, in Ghana is first. You know, road crashes is even killing more than COVID. And look at the effort we've put in to make sure COVID is kept. What effort are we putting in by government? What policy are we putting in? What support are we giving to the custodians of safety, the National Road Safety Authority, you know, to promote safety, to save life? If COVID has come to help us save life, I believe that acid-19, I call it acid-19, we should also have policies that would enforce, you know, the safety on our roads.
But where do we start from? The priority, I guess.
You know, we are living in a country where if we say we are going to look at politics, you know, we are going to be in trouble. But we think that, I think, in my personal view, we must start from somewhere. Right. You know, as a pastor, let me put my pastoral side in it. Right. We are into saving life. I'm a shepherd, and I don't think that I would want my sheep, you know, to go astray and to go dying or to be contracting any disease. So as a leader, you know, whom you love your country so much, policies in place that will help humanity within your circles, you need to bring it up and need to push it. We need a strong arm of government that will say, this is the policy I'm bringing. We must support it. You know, posterity would always award you or reward you for what you're doing today. But if you're looking at people who would talk about what you are bringing today, you cannot do anything at all.
And one thing you've been indicating to me prior to our conversation now is that there's a need for us to open up the system and to allow experts from non-profit agencies and civil society groups to join that collective effort. How do you feel we could be approaching that from the perspective of the accident support?
You see, over the years, we have been thinking about prevention, and everybody have an idea of how to prevent, road crashes. But we have forgotten that, or we have denied ourselves as a country that there are human beings involved. We have over 15,000, even 1,000 people getting injured. Some are normal injuries, some are major injuries, some are very, heavy or major injuries, that could lead to death. So we need to partner. We need to have policies to look at the post-crash of these accident victims, because we need to have their life to stay, to have hope for, to live again. So if government are not allowing us, because government cannot have all, they don't have the think tanks. God, or we have people who are thinking outside the box, like accident victim support. For these years, 13 good years, we have been advocating for support for victims. We have been promoting road safety. We have partnered with the National Road Safety. You can see how we're still alive. To partner with all stakeholders to push. But our agenda is that where we are going right now, since we cannot curb completely the road crashes, let's find a way to support the victims, humanity, the people who are involved. And that's where we are calling on government. We are appealing to government that we have a lot of road crash victims who are suffering unjustly. They never called for it. So fine, if we cannot compensate everybody completely, no. But one way or the other, if we have that kind of government-private partnership, we can at least help the National Road Safety to take up the victim side, to take care of the victims and see how best they are reintegrated back into society without victims thinking that government
how many victims have you supported so far?
Over 100. Over 100. As I talk to you now, I went to Kumasi over the Easter to support victims of 9th March, victims that got bent beyond recognition, that I went to bury. 25 victims. And they have never been given their compensation. They've never had anything. Now, one of the children of the bent victims called me and said, my mother visits me in my dream to ask, so won't you come and see where I was even buried? This is psychology, and they need that psychological, counseling to be able to come out of it. So I told her I'm coming to Kumasi to donate to them. There are about 5 of them I met with, and I have given them a date where I will take them to where they were buried in Kintampo. So at least they can have closure with their mom, who they never saw, they never picked anything from.
And I guess, because we don't have much time, I guess individuals as well can join that cause support too as well.
Exactly.
How do they reach
Thank you very much. Anyone who is touched to support us, and I thank God for Safe Drive campaign, which we need to drive safely. Yes, it's one of the best. And multimedia, you are one of the best that we are promoting this thing. Greetings to Seth Kwame Boateng, who is my friend. So 0246 86 9214. That's my personal number, 0246869214. Tomorrow we're visiting Asin South to support 6 children who crashed, and there was only one who was left. We need to go and talk to them and then bring them out. So anybody want to support us can call on me, and then we are going to help.
Reverend Cyril Crab, I'm grateful that you've joined us here on The Pulse, but we also need to tell you about this, take you back to campus, because one of the affected students who have deferred at KNUST is appealing to the university authorities to consider his plight and reverse its decision. The student who spoke on a condition of anonymity says his parents are broke such that they can't pay the fees immediately. Mohammed Nuruddin has been speaking to some of these students.
Alexander Dixon, not his real name, is the 3rd child of his parents, a second-year engineering student who was not able to meet the minimum requirement of the KNUST fees credit and debt management policy.
One of the students here, and he has also received the message from the university, and this is how the message reads: "Dear student, your program has been deferred as you have not met the minimum requirement of the KNUST fees, credit and debt management policy." And so he has received the message from the university, and we would like to find out from him what has been the challenge, why he was not able, or he has not been able to pay the fees. I mean, you have been given a very long period. I mean, you've gone for vacation for some weeks or even months to prepare and come back to school. What has been the challenge? Why have you not been able to pay your school fees?
During the vacation, I went to Accra and I got myself into some construction business. So I was following people around for something to do, and thanks to God I got something small, and I wasn't having laptop. So I decided that I will buy laptop from the money, and the rest I'll use it to make payment of my school fees. But unfortunately my mother got sick, so I had to give some of the money to her for her medical treatment. After incurring all these costs, I realized that I have nothing on me, so I couldn't make the minimum payment that I wanted to do.
Alexander is not alone in this challenge. There are a couple of students who have difficulty paying their fees, but there are others too who can afford but have used their fees to gamble. Speaker of Parliament for KNUST Students' Parliament, Shamuna Suleiman Magani, says betting is a widespread canker on the university's campus.
It's obvious that there are some students that had problems of paying their fees, and some students used their fees, allegedly used their fees for gambling, which the university really frowns to. But the fact of the matter is that must we generalize this qualitative judgment? This is a judgmental assertion that cannot be taken on a general notice. There are students that are genuinely poor.
Shamuna says the decision of the KNUST to defer students owing fees will affect them psychologically. He, however, appeals to the university to soften its decision on the students.
As a student leader, I know in this particular condition, the university management is right, because the university as it is now spends several amounts of money in running the university. So the university equally needs money to run this particular institution. So I don't have any stance to blame the university on the policy. But the fact of the matter is that we are not in normal times. Post the ravages of COVID-19, and also the UTAG strike has imposed a lot on the student body. So we are calling on the university to consider an extension of the deadlines.
His appeal is reiterated by Joseph Harry Taxin, a second-year law student.
Some of them didn't even come for lectures, so some are even missing out on lectures already. But ideally, I think that some are still soliciting for funds, but then they just need time. They just need time. So that's what we are urging, that the school authorities will at least listen to the grievances of the students. I just want to plead with the university management to kindly consider their decision, and also give them room to make payment for as such.
Over 6,000 students at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology have been asked to defer their programs. The students were unable to meet the minimum requirement under the credit and debt management policy for the university fees. The university had sent reminders to students to pay at least 70% of fees by April 7, 2022 to avoid automatic deferment. A report by Mohammed Nuruddin.
Now, so let's talk about the Ghana Library Authority. They are embarking on a project to improve reading culture among the youth. The authority is an agency under the Ministry of Education and mandated by law to establish, equip, maintain and manage public libraries in Ghana. On this project, they are joining forces with UNICEF to establish youth engagement centers across Ghana to create a safe and inclusive environment, both physically and digitally, where young people, including the disadvantaged groups, can benefit. Well, in studio with us and to help us understand all of this is the Chief Executive himself, Hayford Xiao, who's joining us live here on The Pulse. Good afternoon, sir, and welcome. welcome to the program. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
So let's first of all talk about this project that you're doing to establish the centers. Tell us first of all about the centers and what purpose it was.
Okay, thank you. So the Ghana Library Authority, as you know, we've been working over the past 72 years to connect Ghanaians to knowledge resources. In 2009, we started a project to be able to connect young people to relevant learning resources using massive open online course platforms, including Coursera, Absa Ready to Work, and Udemy. And so out of this project, which was supported by Commonwealth of Learning, we recognize that there's a lot of gaps that exist in terms of people that are able to access the course and their completion rate. And one of the key factors that we recognized was reason for young people being able to complete most of the courses was the fact that some people were accessing the courses on their phones and that they did not have laptops or access to desktop to complete some assignment to finish. So what we have done is that we talked to UNICEF under their Generation Unlimited project to work with us to be able to make some of our various public library spaces connected digitally so that young people can be able to come into those spaces, use some of our computers, connect to free Wi-Fi, and be able to have access to some of these learning resources and use our computers to finish their assignment. Which means that, I mean, if you start a course even with your phone, at least you can come also to the library spaces. So basically these spaces are these, digitally connected spaces within public libraries across the country that young people can come in and be able to use some of our equipment.
We'll talk about how unique these centers will be, but obviously we need to know about the numbers and what your target is.
Yes.
Which communities are you, or regions perhaps, are you going to be reaching out to looking at this project?
So it's 2022 today, we've managed to help about 40,000 young people, but for this year the target is only for 10,000 people, and these are places that have been selected as youth engagement centers. It's based on the historical information that we have, where a lot of people that are benefiting from our opportunity have been coming from.
So you have the areas mapped out?
We have the areas mapped up already. So we have Tema, we have Accra. So Tema, they're using the Tema Library. Right. So Accra, they're using Accra Central Library. Cape Coast is using the Cape Coast Library. Sekondi, of course, the Western Regional Library is the center. Ashanti region, when you go to the Cultural Center, we have the Ashanti Regional Library there. We have Wabo, Gatanga, Temale, and then Winneba. So these are the centers across the country that people who are already enrolled and want to use these spaces to complete their assignments can go.
The perception out there is that if you look at our libraries these days, well, it appears that it's not all that modern, and so it's not fit for purpose. Will this project help to change, refurbish some of these existing?
I think that is probably a historical information you are referring to.
So it's not the case?
Since 2018, public libraries in Ghana has transformed significantly. Those were the days where you have books that were torn out, or when you're accessing relevant content, you couldn't find them. At least from 2018 to today, most of our libraries are already connected. Working with Vodafone Ghana Foundation and GIFIC, we've managed to equip most of our centers with computers. We've worked with Bouquet International Get Fund to be able to stock most of our public libraries across the country with relevant learning resources. Renovations has been conducted both even outside the public space environment. I mean, at the time the new board and management took over in 2018, there were only 61 libraries across the country. We currently have 109 public libraries across the country.
So you've added over 40?
48, yes.
That's significant. But
yes.
We don't know about this much about it. Yes. Do you think it's because the public are not really interested in your activities?
No, I think those that are interested to access public libraries recognize the significant impact we've made in terms of reaching people with our footprint. And so if you look at even the data with respect to library visits, I mean, 2016 library visit was just less than 400,000. Currently, we are recording over 1.2 million visits annually. So a lot of people have gotten to know the significant impact and how these spaces have become really attractive for them to go and sit and learn. I mean, senior high school libraries across the country, almost 80 of them have been benefited from some of our intervention in terms of renovation and our senior high school transformation program.
Impressive. We know that this government, the Vice President, has always told us about digitalization. How are you incorporating that into your activities as well? There's a belief that we should get somewhere where, wherever you are across this country, you should be able to access the mean, the resources that you have at the Ghana Library Authority?
So
are you working towards that?
So what I call is democratization of access to learning resources.
Oh, you started already?
Oh, yes. So 2019, then Minister of Education gave us a policy direction. We established a digital library portal, which is zero-rated by, the biggest telecom companies in Ghana, MTN, Vodafone, our zero-rated platform. In 2020, when COVID happened, the Ministry of Education had to rely on the Ghana Library Authority to deploy some of these learning resources that had been developed by SENDLOS and Ghana Education Service. So when you download the Ghana Library app, you can find tutorial videos that has been developed by expert teachers in Ghana that are available for people to be able to access this content on our platform. This is beside the fact that you have electronic books, you have audio books also on the platform. So strategically, we've managed to really, enhance access to learning resources, leveraging on technology platforms that we've created. On our website, library.gov.gh, you can go on, and for the first time, every Ghanaian can actually get a library card.
And that's what the way I was looking at it, because technically speaking, you are in every home, everywhere, once you have the power of the internet. But the fear is you're not reaching out to the people.
We have a solution for them.
Right.
So in 2018, we brought back mobile library services. So the mobile library service, we currently have 10. This year, Senate is adding 1 mobile library van to our network, so it will be 11 in total. Where these vans goes into rural communities, for example, over the COVID period, UNICEF, for example, funded a lot of work that we did that allowed us to be able to send books resources to communities, rural communities, where people were having access to learning resources when people had this lockdown and were at home and students were not going to school and all that. So at least most districts, usually because of the power of the mobile library service, we've managed to reach a lot of homes.
Reading makes the man, definitely. It's a saying, but where we are now and having assessed particularly the youth, there's this trend where, in fact, we're even learning at KNUST that some are even using their fees for betting and all of that. Is it the case, I mean, from your personal assessment, that the reading culture is generally dwindling across the country?
I actually don't believe in that theory. And it is because from where I sit, I see a lot of people accessing my learning resources. If I see from 2016, 2017, 2018 coming, the rate of visit to public libraries and what we are recording now in terms of about 1.2 million visits annually. If we continue to stock our libraries with the relevant learning resources, continue to leverage on technology to be able to make sure access become readily available to everybody whenever they want to read. There's a school of thought, by one researcher called Stephen Krashen, that, create a conducive environment, make the resources available to the children, and automatically they will build a culture of reading. Historically in Ghana, since the 50s and 60s and 70s, Ghanaians we've never been a people who read. Ghana has never been a reading nation. And so...
Some will take you on this.
Yes, because, I have the record. Right. I have the data. If you look at our annual report from the 50s to 60s, most of the library visits that were recorded, library membership, were by the people, the foreign indigents, the foreigners that were living in Ghana. They were patronizing, our various libraries. That is why, actually, in the late 60s to 70s, there was a research that was conducted by the Ministry of Education, British Council, and the Ghana Library to really understand why Ghanaians are not reading. And one of the outcomes was that we really have a very bad school library system. And so it led to the setup of what we call the Schools and College Library Department. The idea is that provide support to colleges of education, let them understand the essence of reading, equip the colleges of education with libraries and the resources. Now, when they come out and they are in schools teaching, they will be transferring that lifestyle or that habit of reading to the schools. Right. And then you also help the schools with technical assistance and provision of infrastructure so that they can be able to have access to.
So that's an approach you're working on.
So that is a systemic approach we are now adopting to be able to address these issues.
Because we don't have time, in a minute, there's COVID. You're moving out of the COVID era. What lessons have you learned? How are you using that to inform your policy position going forward? Briefly in a minute, and then your message to Ghanaians on this project you're in.
Okay, so Ghana Library Authority, of course, we understand the importance of technology and being able to connect Ghanaians to learning resources, and that is why the United Nations Public Service Award recognized us last year as one of the public agencies in the world that is leading transformation. And this was significantly also because of the work that we did over the COVID period, where we recognized that technology can be leveraged on to connect Ghanaians to knowledge resources. But at the same time, you also have tools like your mobile library service, where you can be able to reach out to people that don't have access to these learning resources. And you understand the issue you raise is that data, they don't have data. That is why we've also worked with, telco partners to be able to zero it in these platforms.
And I hear you've won an award, international award?
Yes, so that's what I mentioned, one of them. This is the United Nations Public Service Award. So they informed the Permanent Mission of Ghana in New York about that award, and we went to Dubai to pick it up. Earlier on also in the year, 2021, London International Book for Excellence Award also declared as the Library of the Year.
Let's hope for better times to come. That's the CEO for the Ghana Library Authority, Heifotiao, talking to us there. When we return, we'll bring you sports. Please stay.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the sports segment here on the Joy News Pulse with me, Rico Ampofo. Manchester United have appointed Ajax coach Erik ten Hag as their next manager. The Dutchman will take over from interim boss Ralf Rangnick at the end of the season on a 3-year deal which can be extended by 1 more year. Rangnick, who replaced the sacked Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in November, is set to move into a consultancy role, whilst ten Hag becomes United's 5th permanent manager since Alex Ferguson retired in 2013. So what exactly does ten Hag bring on board? Joining me in studio is Joy Sports' Joel Bote. Joel, is the news that we've had in the past few weeks, and it doesn't really come as a surprise. But let me take you back to the front runners for the job. Between ten Hag and then Mauricio Pochettino, would you describe Manchester United's decision as the right one going forward, the Dutch boss?
Comparing the two, I think ten Hag came out the better option because Pochettino is still struggling in the PSG side that has had so much issues with regards to what their performance in the Champions League and how they started their season as well. Though PSG currently stand as top of the League One, you look at what ten Hag has done for Ajax since coming in for the side, and he's taking the side. He's won 3 of their league titles for them. He's won 2. He's going to win the 3rd one possibly this season because he currently leads the league table. He's taking them in terms of Champions Leagues with a squad that many underrated to a semi-final finish, and if not for a hat-trick from Lucas Moura, they possibly could have made it to the final. And so you look at all that he's done in terms of the project for Ajax, and then that is why he's been the man that they've gone in for. They're looking to fix what they have right now, looking to rebuild, and I believe he's been the better option between the two.
Well, everything suggests that this is a long-term appointment, but in the short term, he's coming in, has the whole summer. What would you describe, or what would you point out in terms of some of the immediate decisions that he has to take if he is to get the nod in the long run and still be Manchester United, but let's say in the next 2 seasons?
Coming into the summer, it would look more of trying to instill his philosophy, but then that wouldn't come easy because you're looking at the type of players, the caliber of players you have, and whether they fit into the system you're trying to create. Now, that would then leave it more to recruitment. Which players are they going to bring in? Which players are they going to adjust or tweak in terms of their roles? And this is where I see things being taken into the season that would come, the next season, because United would not be one summer job, even as Rangnick has said, it will take time. And so over the summer, it will be more of recruitment and also trying to guide the players that are already there in terms of their roles and trying to instill a new philosophy into them. That's what I think the summer would need.
All right, thank you very much, Joel. Just for clarification's sake, the announcement doesn't mean that ten Hag would be taking charge of Manchester United with immediate effect. It's one for next season. So Rangnick will still see out the remaining 5 Premier League games that Manchester United has as he tries to get a top 4 finish and essentially Champions League football for the Red Devils next season. My name is Rico Ampofo, and that's how I'll be wrapping up the sports here on the Joy News Pulse. You can get some more sports stories on my Joy Online /sports, or you can follow us on social media at Joy Sports GH across Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.